Oh, hi, everybody. Hey, good news. Black Friday has already passed, but Sunset Lake Sebede.com's Black Friday sale hasn't ended until tonight. It's cold out there, a lot of stress. Recent events you may have picked up on that. You deserve to rest and recharge. And Sunset Lake Sebede.com can help you with that. Right now, you can save 30% site-wide, when you head to sunsetlakesebede.com. Use the code Friday. Usually it's left is best, but right now, 30% off with the code Friday. They got everything you need to chill out, enjoy your holiday time this season, whether you're going into tense situations or not. They got tinctures, they got gummies, they got topicals, they got even products for your pets. For me, the Good Night Oil and the Good Night Gummies are go-tos multiple times a week to get me to sleep. Very, very helpful with that. Also, the calming stuff with the mushrooms, and also the Focus with the mushroom gummies. Excellent. Plus, they've got coffee and fudge, all sorts of gifts, smokables, keef, salves that are helpful. Oh, and I'm really been using the lotion quite a bit because of my dry skin this time of year. Sunset Lake is also, there's a little bonus, including some freebies. If you order over $100, they'll throw in a free 20-count jar of Relax Functional Mushroom Gummies. If you order over $200, they'll also throw in a 20-count jar of the Focus Functional Mushroom Gummies. So head over to sunsetlakesebede.com. Use the code Friday to save 30% off, but do it now because the sale ends tonight, midnight at Eastern Standard Time. See their site for terms and conditions. Also, another great gift, or just something to add to your wellness routine. Manuka Honey is rich. It is creamy. It is the most delicious honey you have ever had. You have never had anything like this before if you've never had Manuka Honey. It is ethically produced by Manukau's master beekeepers in the remote forests of New Zealand. Manuka Honey contains powerful nutrients to support immunity and gut health. What happens is the bees collect their nectar from the Manuka tea tree in New Zealand. The nectar is packed with bioactives, and the honey that's produced has 3 times more antioxidants and prebiotics than your average honey. I'll put Manuka Honey in my tea, in my yogurt. I'll use it as a sugar substitute in some of the things I'm baking. I got compostable. I got these sticks that are compostable that are great for snacks for my kid and for myself, frankly. And I've actually started doing, I mean, you put it into, you can put it into salad dressings. You can put it into, I guess, protein shakes, wherever you would want any type of sweetness. It is a completely different tasting honey. It's got a caramel consistency, and it's just, I can't really explain it to you. And even when I've sometimes used stuff for eczema and stuff like that, I'll put a little bit of that on because it's supposedly good. I'm starting to see that kind of honey show up in all these skin products because Manuka Honey has this special antibacterial compound. It's called MGO, comes from the nectar of that tea tree. And Manuka third-party tests every single harvest for MGO and makes these results available through their QR system. And you can see it right on there on the containers of the honey. It's a game changer. All you need is 1 heaped teaspoon every morning to get the most out of this amazing bioactives in Manuka. You can use it, obviously, for the rest of the day, but particularly to cut out sweeteners. But it's basically a honey with superpowers. Now it's easier than ever to try Manuka Honey. Head to manukora.com/majority. Get $25 off the starter kit, which comes with an MGO 850 plus Manuka Honey jar, 5 honey travel sticks, a wooden spoon, and a guidebook. That's manukora.com/majority. Links in the podcast and YouTube description. Now time for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Monday, December 2nd, 2024. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Rick Perlstein, historian, writer at the American Prospect, author of Reaganland, America's Right Turn, 1976-1980, and was it 3 others that qualitatively, what do you call that? He'll be here to talk about faux populism and how to hear a fascist. Meanwhile, Joe Biden will never, ever, pardons his son, Hunter Biden. Donald Trump picks a crony loyalist Kash Patel to run the FBI. The Assad regime on the ropes as rebels advance in Aleppo. Former Israeli defense minister accuses Israel of ethnic cleansing. Obvious. Has an issue with Jews. This as Israel kills more World Central Kitchen workers. And the New York Times reports Israel building bases in northern Gaza. Meanwhile, back in this country, Pete Hegseth's mom accused him of mistreating women.
Ask the moms.
As new report exposes Hegseth's drinking and assault problems. And Donald Trump appoints Kushner and Baulos. I don't know where I recognize those names. I know what it is. It's both his kids' in-laws to top government positions. Biden surges arms to Ukraine and encourages Ukraine to draft 18-year-olds. Thousands of German VW workers go on strike. And in that race for the DNC chair, Wisconsin DNC chair Ben Weckler has entered the building, as it were. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. It is
Fun Day Monday?
Well, we'll see. Yeah.
It's Monday. Charles Kushner, who he just appointed to be that ambassador, people may not know this, but he had a scandal where he basically hired, I think, an escort to sleep with his sister's husband to catch him in some scheme that he could use against him for business purposes. And then Trump ended up pardoning him for that, and now has appointed him to be an ambassador.
But wasn't it also because he wanted to discredit this guy because of testimony? We should dig back into it. It's been a while since I talked about Charles Kushner. But I believe that it was an attempt to make this person their testimony less reliable in testifying against Kushner in a separate legal case he had. But I gotta look.
But either way, creating a situation in which you would get your sister's husband to cheat on her and then film that for information that you could leverage against him. It says everything you need to know about this guy's character, huh?
Really? I don't know. I guess you could judge.
Depends how much money was on the line.
Okay, yes, it was. Okay. Kushner discovered that his brother-in-law was cooperating with federal authorities. I mean, generally you don't mind if your brother-in-law is cooperating with federal authorities unless you feel like somehow you're going to end up on the losing end of that cooperation.
My ears are burning.
So there it is. Yeah, we should actually also pull that Ben Wickler statement. Do we have that for sound? We should do that. I'm excited about that, just because I'm looking for some measure of competency in that. We will get to that. We'll obviously be talking about Joe Biden's pardon of Hunter Biden. I'm not incredibly exercised about it, but it's not terribly. I don't know how shocking it is, frankly, and it's unclear, Joe Biden didn't do very much of put aside the merits of whether he should or should not have pardoned Hunter Biden. But in terms of just sort of like, and I don't think it's really just a question of optics, it's also like, how do you justify doing this now when you said before you hadn't, you weren't going to? Now, maybe there are reasons he has. I don't know. I'm not sure I terribly care. But one wonders if at least the timing, it coming late last night, obviously you've got his sentencing coming up. He could have done it after the sentencing. He could have commuted this the sentence. Also, if you're going to issue this pardon, the time to do it, if you don't want it to get much news coverage, would have been Friday, when it's a completely dead news, completely nobody's paying attention to the news. That he did it last night, I think there's not enough being made of the timing, because if you want to bury the story, anything that happens on the Friday after Thanksgiving, or frankly on the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, is gone by Monday or Tuesday of this week. I mean, more or less. But over the weekend, Donald Trump announced that he was going to nominate this guy, Kash Patel, Tim Pool's favorite guy for Attorney General, but FBI will do. This guy was named to be the FBI head. And let's be clear, I don't have huge love for the FBI. The FBI has done, at least in my 20 years of paying attention to politics, some pretty horrible things in terms of spying on Muslims. Certainly in the 60s, they were spying on anybody on the left. Hoover was an absolute piece of garbage. I'm sure the FBI does some good things too, but I'm sure there's good people on both sides.
In between the entrapping Muslim teenagers.
Exactly. But I don't think we want, aside from the abuses of the FBI, I don't think there's any sense that we're not going to get those abuses from this guy.
Do you feel highly confident that when you go back and as a senior member of this administration, President Trump's administration, starting in the afternoon of the 20th of January of 2025, do you feel confident that you will be able to deliver the goods, that we can have serious prosecutions and accountability? And I want the Morning Joe producers that watch us and all the producers that watch us, this is just not rhetoric. We're absolutely dead serious. We're not. You cannot have a constitutional republic and allow what these deep staters have done to the country. The deep state, the administrative state, the fourth branch of government, never mentioned in the Constitution, is going to be taken apart brick by brick. And the people that did these evil deeds will be held accountable and prosecuted, criminal prosecutions. Kash, I know you're probably going to be head of the CIA. But do you believe that you can deliver the goods on this in a pretty short order, the first couple of months, so we can get rolling on prosecutions?
Yes, we got the bench for it, Bannon, and you know those guys. I'm not going to go out there and say their names right now so the radical left-wing media can terrorize them. But, excuse me, the one thing we learned in the Trump administration the first go-around is we got to put in all America patriots top to bottom. And we got them for law enforcement. We got them for intel collection. We got them for offensive operations. We got them for DOD, CIA, everywhere. And the one thing we will do that they never will do is we will follow the facts and the law and go to courts of law and correct these justices and lawyers who have been prosecuting these cases based on politics and actually issuing them as lawfare.
Pause it for 1 second.
Go out.
How do you correct justices and prosecutors? What does that mean? Correct them. I mean, he's basically saying we're going to be putting Trump loyalists throughout every position. Now this answer is sort of premised on being in control of the CIA, which I guess on some level, thank goodness for small favors, the FBI has a little bit more transparency.
And it's
little
more about domestic enemies as opposed to.
Well, it's under, yeah. I mean, but the CIA, God knows, what they're up to. I guess there's at least a little bit more oversight of the FBI, but he's basically just announcing, and he's making it clear, we're going to top to bottom. Nobody's going to have a question with the orders that they get, and we're going to go in and correct judges and prosecutors. Okay.
On politics and actually issuing them as lawfare. We will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in the media. Yes, we're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. We're going to come after you. Whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice. And Steve, this is why they hate us. This is why we're tyrannical. This is why we're
dictators. Pause it for a second.
Because we're actually going to use.
Also, this whole thing about Joe Biden rigging elections. Why didn't he do it this time? Why did he do it last time and he didn't do it this time? Like, did he have, was he the only one who had the apparatus? And he's like, I'm staying in the race. I'm not giving you the rigging.
He's both, well, now he's mentally incompetent. Don't you understand? So
I forgot where I put the button to switch the votes.
Yep.
I knew I hit it somewhere. And I didn't want Kamala to find it, and I forgot where I put it. I mean, the point here is either he's out of his mind, or he's just blatantly lying. Now, I should also add there's a C option, which is he's out of his mind and also blatantly lying.
I would say that's likely. I mean, this guy's a lunatic. Like, do we have more of this? But
yeah, play a little bit more.
A little bit more.
We go back a little bit.
To come after you, whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice. And Steve, this is why they hate us. This is why we're tyrannical. This is why we're dictators, because we're actually going to use the Constitution to prosecute them for crimes they said we have always been guilty of, but never have.
Okay. So I know you are, but what am I? Well, like,
that's real though. Like,
yeah.
Cori Bush, one of the first things she did after Jan 6 when she got into Congress was tried to expel the Jan 6ers. That should have been done. Like, and we see a counterexample with Brazil going after the coup plotters. Like that, these guys were allowed to sit in and regroup is a huge problem.
And it's also a failure of Merrick Garland. So, like, to return to the absurdity of this claim, essentially, that Biden was the one rigging this in their favor, it's ridiculous. Biden went over the top, and like this is within the context, I guess, of the Hunter pardon too. He started a special counsel to look into his document retention as vice president, which ended up biting him in the ass because it included anecdotes about his mental decline. He kept on that Trump appointed prosecutor who was looking into that Hunter gun allegation, which they would never have pursued if it wasn't Hunter Biden. Like, he went over the top to basically say, I'm not political about this. And, he ended up pardoning Hunter because of that. I'm not defending the action, but I'm just basically saying that norms only apply on one side. And then you have guys like this who are explicitly saying we're going to go after our political enemies, and Trump's trying to reward him to be FBI director. This, just to underscore what a lunatic this guy is, he was a staffer for Devin Nunes, a California Republican who now leads Truth Social, Trump's media operation. When he was a staffer for Nunes, he traveled to the UK without telling either government as an aide to this congressperson to personally look for Christopher Steele so he could go after one of Trump's enemies who was targeting him in the UK. And then after that, he wrote a bunch of children's books called The Plot Against the King, where it's about how Donald Trump, was the victim of a coup attempt. I mean, he's a lunatic. And he was picked at one point for chief of staff to Defense Secretary Christopher Miller, who was appointed after Trump fired Mark Esper in the week after the election. So he was explicitly promoted within the context of he can be one of the guys that helps me overturn the results of the election.
Yep.
So lunatic on top of lunatic, and we'll get into Hegseth later. But
we'll also do a lot more on Patel over the next couple of days. Important stuff. But in a moment, Rick Perlstein, historian, writer at the American Prospect, among other things, on the faux populism and how to hear a fascist, and really just an assessment of everything at this time. But first, a couple of words from our sponsor. This show is sponsored by Liquid IV. Doesn't matter whether you forget to take a sip of water during the office holiday party or start feeling parched after a long day of traveling or hosting, keep Liquid IV on hand to stay hydrated throughout the holidays. I do every day during the show. I have at least one of these every day during the show. And I also find that, like, if I don't finish an entire bottle of this, like, I start to feel it over the course of a day. What is Liquid IV? It is little packets of hydration multiplier, what they call. You can get it both in regular or sugar-free. I am now deep into the sugar-free and have been. It gets 8 vitamins and nutrients, 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, and no artificial sweeteners. Liquid IV comes in true-to-fruit flavors that keep you hydrated. Find your all-time favorite hydration multiplier flavors on their website, from acai berry and lemon lime and, yes, pina colada. The day they come out with the sugar-free pina colada is going to be like my second birthday. Right now, they're sugar-free flavors: raspberry melon, which is I'm deep into, white peach, and green grape. One stick. All you got to do, you tear, you pour, you live more. One stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates you better than water alone. Liquid IV is powered by what they call Live Hydroscience. It's an optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients that turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. It contains, like I say, 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sport drink, 8 essential vitamins and nutrients. Liquid IV, always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. Honestly, folks, when I travel, I take packets of these with me everywhere. I don't know what to say. I've been drinking a bottle of this or 2 for, I don't know, 8 years, 6 years. I don't know what it is, but it's, then look at me. Okay. Stay hydrated through the holidays with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com. Use the code MajorityRep at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MajorityRep at liquidiv.com. Also, you're looking for gifts this holiday season? I got some great ideas for you. Pajamas, joggers, and I just bought myself another of my favorite hoodie from Cozy Earth. I want to thank Cozy Earth for sponsoring this episode. You can give the gift of luxury this holiday season with 40% off using the code Majority Report at cozyearth.com/Majority Report. I got Cozy Earth sheets. I got Cozy Earth's pillows, towels now, and the joggers. But I now, like almost on a daily basis, am wearing a Cozy Earth sweatshirt. I think I have it today, my hoodie. It is both light and heavy, thin and heavy, and smooth and cozy, I guess. I don't know. I love it. And you got what do you got? Like a duvet or something?
I do, yes. It's great.
Cozy Earth's bamboo sheet set is the ultimate gift this holiday season. It elevates everyday luxury into something everybody's going to use and absolutely adore. It is the gift of unparalleled comfort. Also, it's temperature regulating. And it is also sustainable. It's made from viscose, which is from bamboo. And one of the gifts I'm giving this year, Cozy Earth's women's stretch knit long sleeve bamboo pajama set. We also got men's pajamas. Cozy Earth pajamas are designed for those cherished moments of relaxation and basically sleeping. And they're incredibly soft and also durable. Cozy Earth sheets are so breathable, you'll sleep several degrees cooler. They're made with a durable fabric weave that will not pill, guaranteed for 10 years. And Cozy Earth prides itself on the responsible production of its products. Cozy Earth bedding products have a 10-year warranty. That's how much Cozy Earth believes in them. Want your Cozy Earth pajamas by Christmas? Order by December 13th for free shipping. Missed it? You can still get expedited shipping until December 20th to ensure it arrives in time. Don't wait. Head to cozyearth.com/Majority Report now. Use our exclusive code Majority Report, one word, for up to 40% off. Give the gift of luxury this holiday season. cozyearth.com/Majority Report. And if you get a survey after your purchase, say you heard about them from the Majority Report. Links in the podcast and YouTube description. All right, quick break. When we come back, Rick Perlstein. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. Pleasure always to welcome back to the program Rick Perlstein, historian, writer at the American Prospect, author of Before the Storm, Nixonland, The Invisible Bridge, and Reaganland. If you want to get a sense of, what has taken place in this country, particularly, the last 50 to 30 years, I guess, or 50 to 30 years ago, where a lot of this trajectory that we have been on basically got started. Rick, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
Let's talk about your latest piece in the American Prospect first. Anyways, I want to start there. Dr. Strange Kennedy. And this notion, because I see this, you refer to it as how to how you should learn to worry more about illiberal politics in liberal guise. I'm seeing this also too in the context of like of populism, and we see various people sort of subscribing to specific nuggets within the agenda of what we're seeing in this administration positively. Well, like, just give me a sense overall of what you're talking about here.
Well, I mean, I guess it would be kind of like if we're going to go like reductio ad Hitlerium right off the bat, Hitler built the Autobahn kind of deal, right? Mussolini made the trains run on time, right? My bottom line is
the KKK. You cite the KKK promoting universal health care. And what was the other one?
Well, I mean, the Kaiser of Germany, Kaiser Bismarck. Bismarck, Wilhelm Bismarck was the guy who invented, unemployment insurance, because he wanted the working class to support him when he, took over Africa and, mowed over the Catholics of Germany.
Yeah. And I just want to say, like, there's a version of this that I think they're trying to copy here on the right with Viktor Orban, right? Where he offers some social services and under the guise of trying to help people out, but it's really explicitly to reinforce, a patriarchal system, anti-LGBTQ system,
So,
etc.
it's one of these old playbooks, right? And, the foundation of it that is as I've been thinking about this, recently and trying to put things together in a systematic way, is that right-wing politics, whether it goes by the name conservatism or authoritarianism or what they used to, proudly call in the early 20th century fascism, really is about hierarchy and authority, the right people being in control, people knowing their place. And, if that's the bottom line, really the kind of policies that you use to get there are, just tactical ultimately. Conservatives have been for big government, they've been for small government, right? I mean, the first big government agency in America really was the FBI, what became the FBI, and it was kind of created out of a moral panic about white slavery, which was kind of like the QAnon of the 19 teens, right? They can be for social policy, or they can be against social policy. They can be for law and order, or they can be for, the kind of whatever it is that Trump does, where like his friends are all are all innocent and he's all criminals, right? So, in the case of a RFK Jr., a couple points can be made. One is that, even though, a lot of what he says is, very enticing and sounds quite humanitarian, taking apart big ag, nailing big pharma to the wall, which is also a big part of Project 2025. Even though it sounds enticing, it often means kind of eviscerating the kinds of institutions that it actually requires to do those things. But the other point I made in the piece is that there's actually a long tradition on the right of this kind of bodily purity politics, which is actually one of the scarier kind of fascist traditions on the right, right? And I gave as, the example from the early 60s, the right-wing crusade that held that fluoridation of water was a communist plot, right? So anyone who's seen Dr. Strangelove knows, that hilarious scene in which the right-wing general says that the communists are trying to sap our purity of essence. And have you ever seen a commie drink a glass of water, right? And I also gave the example of, back in the 90s when I was, researching before the storm, all of a sudden, Phyllis Schlafly, who I was yakking with on the phone, as one does.
Well, just remind people who Phyllis Schlafly was, because I think you and I remember, but I'm not sure anybody else does.
No.
Queen of the anti-feminist movement of the 1970s, almost single-handedly, defeated the Equal Rights Amendment. And, there's a wonderful miniseries about her, Mrs. America, that you can see on Hulu, I think. Maybe it was Netflix. Anyway, she was basically one of the most powerful reactionaries and successful reactionary organizers ever. And she died in 2016, a huge, Trump fan. She kind of spans the era from McCarthy to Donald Trump. And she was on the phone, and she was just suddenly out of nowhere telling me about how pure the food was that she fed her children, right? So like health food kind of making fun of health food was kind of a thing you made fun of the John Birch Society before hippies got a hold of it, right? So all these kind of scrambled kind of ideological associations, shouldn't fool us to the fact that, RFK Jr. is a crazy conspiracy theorist. And if you actually kind of dig down into how he thinks about how we're going to fix the food system and fix the pharma system, it really is quite creepy in that it kind of creates two classes of people, these kind of superior people in Untermenschen, right? The superior people who eat the right foods, which are often, very expensive, right? Who do the right exercise regimes, which are also very expensive, who take the right drugs, which, don't have anything to do with the democratic process of peer review, but are basically dictated from above, often with people who have financial interests in those drugs, right? So we look at that weird culture of, kind of right-wing food supplements and all that sort of thing. And they're superior. And we're all inferior for kind of messing around with this sort of rabble public health, right? The kind of stuff that, evil people like Dr. Fauci, mess around with. So, basically, don't buy it. RFK could be the guy who, presides over more deaths than a nuclear holocaust if he has his way. If we go back on something like the polio vaccine, one of the things I learned recently, making these arguments on the dreaded Twitter, is that it used to be when people were studying public health, or maybe they still do, students would go on walks of cemeteries. And you guys know why public health professors would take their students on walks of cemeteries on the first day of class, to show them what happened in the 1950s when the polio vaccine came about. That, how many babies died before widespread vaccination became a thing. So we're going to go back into this world where cemeteries are going to be full of infants if RFK Jr. and Donald Trump has their way.
I want to. I know Emma wants to talk a little bit about the other sort of players who represent a similar thing in this. But what Musk and
his natalism, really.
But
yeah.
But how do you approach it from this perspective? Because okay, the KKK, for example, wants universal health care.
So, yeah, the KKK thing was super weird. I had a pamphlet from the 1920s. It was a KKK pamphlet saying the government should give away free health care because they believed in the germ theory, right? And all these immigrants were so dirty and diseased that unless everyone could go to a doctor for free, we'd all die because of these diseased immigrants.
Well, okay. I disagree with their reasons for it, obviously. And, with Kennedy, there's no sort of structural answer to what he's talking about. It's all like he knows the right person to put in these things, and magically he's going to get the Republican Congress to outlaw certain chemicals and production. But part of me is like, well, that would be good. All right, the KKK is pushing for single payer health insurance, let's say, or free government sponsored health insurance. That would be good. How do I, as someone who does not want the rest of the program that would come along with these people, how do I respond to this? Because I'm looking at Bernie Sanders is saying to Musk, I want to cut the military, and I want to cut the military too. But in my reaction to Kennedy saying he's going to regulate. Because he doesn't say the word regulate, but that's the only way. If you're going to get these chemicals out of food, you got to pass laws that say these chemicals don't belong in food anymore. And I like the idea of yes, let's regulate the hell out of corporations and introduce that concept and mainstream it. But how do you respond?
Well, this is why it's all talk, Sam, and this is why they're just not trustworthy vectors for this sort of thing.
Oh, I agree, but what's the proper response?
So Sam Rayburn was one of the legendary politicians of the 40s and 50s. He was LBJ's mentor. He was the Speaker of the House, and he had a very wonderful saying that you should never forget, which is that any jackass can knock down a barn. It takes a carpenter to build something. These people are all jackasses, and they want to knock down, these sets of public health bureaucracies that have been built up over a very, very, very long time. And, sometimes they've failed us and sometimes they've succeeded, right? They definitely need reform. They definitely need fixing. All bureaucracies need reform and fixing. But if you just kind of knock them out with a meat axe, right? Like, the Vivek Musk, we're going to get rid of half of all public employees. You're just destroying, decades of accumulated expertise, right? Decades of accumulated knowledge, wisdom, strategic capacity, institution building, and the idea is, this is kind of the fascist idea that you can just kind of build a new world by scratch by having the proper people in there with the kind of proper ideas. And that's the any jackass can knock down a barn, right? It'll cause chaos, right? And it'll turn everyone who works within this bureaucracy, which is just basically ordinary folks who, work hard and, you generally have the public interest in mind, into extensions of the will of very bad people, right? And they're just not trustworthy.
But I all of that makes sense to me, but I'm saying from the, and maybe it's more of an issue, for people like you or I, right? Or Emma, how do we, is it just simply, we reject all of this because we know they're not going to do it? Or do we also, or is there also an element of that's a good thing, but they won't do it? And, or how does the part of society that doesn't want, because I was looking at, clips of people up in AOC's district. There's been a couple of different reporters who have gone up there and interviewed people, one locally, and you can hear the way that people are talking about, or you hear some people say, oh, he's only going to get rid of the criminal, immigrants and not other immigrants. And what's the job of those of us who don't want the authoritarianism to use their promises for issues that we support, so that if we get past this stage, those issues still have a resonance, and or that their failure to deliver ends up costing them.
Right. I mean, I think that I would point to the 900,000 unnecessary deaths that happened, under Donald Trump's presidency, in the year 2000, if that was, I refer to 900,000 specifically because that was a study that was done. If we had the same rate of deaths during COVID as Australia had, we would have saved 900,000 lives. And Australia was a country that actually was, the prime minister was a conservative. He was actually a global warming denier, but he just did the normal things of turning it over to these boring public health bureaucracies, turning it over to boring freaking experts, and said, you guys are in control. You guys are in charge. I'll listen to you instead of you listening to us, right? And it's a tricky thing, Sam. It's really kind of one of the contradictions, the paradoxes, of small d democracy, that you do have to defer to experts, and expertise is not always democratic, right? It's the kind of do your research stuff that populism is very compelling, right? Do your research often, unfortunately, means you do a Google search, and the bad guys know how to manipulate search very well. And, they do search engine optimizations. So if you, Google trans, and the first thing you come up with is, the trans person who wants to play on the volleyball team, not the person who almost died from gender dysmorphia, right? So, I mean, we have to kind of, there's no magic bullet, because you have to do this difficult thing of saying you have to defer to experts who know more than you.
But I mean, you and I both agree, like we would love the defense budget on just like on principle, and not just on, I mean, on principle, but also like as a shift in foreign policy, to be half the size, a quarter of the size, an eighth of the size, whatever. We could pick, any reduction, like instead of like adding $80 billion every year would be a good start. I don't think that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are really interested in cutting it, other than they are maybe like, hey, it'd be more efficient if we had Tesla build like whatever it is. Right. But the idea that they are, promulgating this, right? I mean, how many times have we heard like Reagan, issued, amnesty for immigrants, and that being leveraged as a way of trying to sort of like mainstream these ideas.
I think you just say the people, you just point to the people involved to say they're liars, and point out the way they lied. Point to how much money Elon Musk gets from the federal government. Point to all the lies he made about driverless cars. We're gonna have them by the year 2000. Point to the lies of Donald Trump saying he's gonna get rid of Obamacare. Right? Like, why would you trust the word these people say? I mean, he doesn't really have to get much further than that. I can say I'm gonna make all 5'5" people 6 feet tall. And doesn't mean you have to take it seriously, because I'd be lying. Right.
Unless we wanted all 5'5" people to be 6 feet, and then we'd be like, that's a good idea, but he's not going to do it.
Right. Or you can say all the things that he said he's going to do that he's not going to do. Right. You can say that, all these defense programs, every major, weapon system has a component that's built in, they have 435 components. Each one is going to be built in a different congressional district. So every member of Congress has a stake in that weapon system, sticking around. You can say these things are complicated and these people don't have any idea about how to do anything that's complicated, right? You can say, sure, maybe the Ku Klux Klan wanted socialized medicine, but they were going to only have socialized medicine for white people, right? And we're in a terrible situation because, as you know, and I'm sure talk about a lot all the time, we're in such a degraded information environment, right?
Right.
That, Mark Twain said, a lie can go halfway around the world before the truth can lace up its boots. Now it can go around the world 50 or 60 times before you even turn on your computer, right? So, a lot of this is just going to have to be kind of like peer-to-peer stuff,
that's my question for you, Rick, is just like what you bring up, that corroded media environment. And I agree with you that we have to point out that these folks are disingenuous, but like, what's the utility right now? I'm struggling with pointing out that Trump is a liar. I mean, the world knows he's a liar. In fact, part of why I thought Harris would win was because a majority of independents think that he lost the 2020 election. That seems to be outside of his cult, widely understood. We've had now 8 years of fact checks and Pinocchios and everything that under the sun. The problem is,
the scales are not going to fall from everybody's eyes one day.
Right.
And nobody cares about the deaths.
No one cares about
from COVID. That's what's amazing to me.
The corroded media environment that you talk about, and I know it's like a little coastal elite to talk about this, but like when you see some of this exit polling data, and it's just a small piece of the information, but a lot of the Trump voters that broke for him, specifically late deciders who just came out and voted for him, didn't vote down ballot Republican. They just voted for Trump and walked away. It seems as if a majority of them get their information from social media. I don't know what the answer is there, and I'm curious what you think.
We had more charismatic leaders who, had kind of a bold way of thinking about this kind of stuff. It kind of sucks to call for kind of what they used to call a man on horseback. But, Donald Trump, a lot of the reason he appeals to people is just, good old fashioned charisma, which is not something you can kind of order from a catalog or put in a bottle. I was just thinking, I was at a party the other day and I was, drunk and high as one gets at a party, and one has, one's best ideas. It's legal in Illinois, so I'm good. And we're like, if we had a real resistance that was, kind of had valor and creativity and cleverness, already there would be some kind of symbol, right? Some kind of song, some kind of meme, that people would be kind of glomming onto, like, the old, kind of like Star Wars resistance symbol, right? I just don't, and I'm not it, I'm not the charismatic leader, right? I know lots of stuff, I can explain lots of stuff, but explaining doesn't do it. Who are the people who are really, kind of go out there and kind of inspiring us and putting their bodies on the line? And, I'm sure they'll emerge, but, that's another thing about, another paradox of democracy, is you have to sometimes you have to trust experts and bureaucrats, which who wants to do that? It'd be much better if we could just all come up with our own ideas and do our research for ourselves. But, leadership is important. Someone like FDR said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, or a martyr like JFK. The only reason, Lyndon Johnson was able to pass the Civil Rights Act and, Head Start and the war on poverty was because he said, we have to honor the fallen martyr, right? This is the magic stuff of politics, right? And it's, we're very good at the rational stuff in politics, right? Hopefully, there's a generation of people who, say things like, actually, we want immigrants in our country,
right?
Not, oh, we're gonna turn away immigrants faster and more efficiently than Republicans are. Someone who can come up with a kind of compelling moral vision, Unfortunately, there's lots of kind of bottlenecks and roadblocks from keeping that happen from our only friend in the world, the Democratic Party, and like Frederick Douglass said about the Republicans for black men in the late 19th century, the Republican Party is the boat, all else is the sea, right? This is the only vehicle we have right now that's kind of built into the structures of, our electoral politics. But, young leaders are going to come forth,
Do we have any type of precedence for this? Because, you talk about the sort of lack of response. And I remember when Reagan was elected and reelected in particular, but also when Bush was reelected, like there seems to be
the precedent was us, in the early 2000s, this incredible blogosphere that came out of nowhere. And, one of the reasons, Bush wasn't able to accomplish what he wanted to accomplish, which was basically create a permanent Republican majority by wiring the system, was this kind of steady resistance that was, just turning him into a laughingstock.
But I feel a greater demoralization in this era than then. Like, and it was, 2004, into 2005 was demoralizing, but this seems greater. And it seems to me that what Bush did was he took aim at Social Security, and that was like basically like the one thing that snapped everybody out of it and got people
taking aim at comprehensive immigration reform.
Yeah, and he undermined his own base by doing that too. And I get the sense, like, I'm looking at Trump with this whole sort of immigrant thing. He threatens Mexico, and to basically, we better get to essentially net zero immigration. Well, we're already almost there.
Right.
And so it's like he's coming in and saying, like, it's like me walking out right now at 12 at 10 of 1 and go, it better be about an hour after noon, 7 minutes from now, or there's going to be hell to pay. And then 7 minutes later, it's okay. I've gotten my way, and he takes the credit from it. He's smart about this.
Yeah. But that's the scariest part, is that he has nothing that he can deliver, right? It's like it's all fake promises. And, part of it says, oh, well, once people see the inflation and But that's the scary part about, that's why this word fascism is so useful, right? Because anything bad can be blamed on the scapegoats, right? The deep state got in our way, right? So let's destroy the deep state, right? We had to, we weren't able to, lower the size of the military because, there are too many, whatever is the enemy du jour, kind of burrowing within the Pentagon, right? So yeah, I don't have any good answers for that, right? I'm hearing very scary speculation, that, and I'm just going to say it. I don't have any evidence yet. Let me just say that this is, kind of very off the top of my head speculation that I'm looking into, that, when there are jobs that can't get done because people getting deported, well, maybe they'll turn to, prison labor, right? And you get this spiraling downward, more and more hatred, more and more exploitation of vulnerable people. One of the things my alderman in Chicago, Andre Vasquez, who's been in charge of, kind of making kind of migrant policy for Chicago, he points out is, there's going to be a serious problem with crime with the migrants who come, but they're going to be the victims of the crime, right? Because they're not going to be able to advert to the authorities. They're not going to be able to go to the cops. They're going to be the most vulnerable people, right? They're going to be taken advantage of. That's, the sick, cynical deal that the Republicans have about immigration is, the cynical ones, know that they can simultaneously get the rubes to want to deport everyone and have the business elites be able to take advantage of their labor, and, nothing will happen. But, now we have this kind of deal that they had with abortion where, maybe the dog is going to catch the car and they won't know what to do with it, right? But I don't really find any comfort in that because the more kind of distrustful society becomes, and the more elites are able to kind of weaponize people's kind of feral instincts, the harder it is to build something in its stead. Which is why, when societies fall to authoritarian politicians and authoritarian politics, often the only thing that ends it is cataclysm. War.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not glib,
Do we have a historical precedent to something like this? I mean,
I think Chile, is an example where a country that, really became a fascist country. And, over the decades, they just kind of ground away at, Pinochet and his followers, and eventually built a democracy. South Africa is another one, right? I mean, you had, white minority rule for decades and decades and decades, and there was kind of a political and guerrilla effort that received basically the moral sympathy of the entire world. Now South Africa is a democracy, right? But that's the kind of level we're talking about, right? And one part of the reconstruction that has to happen is people have to learn that government, run by public spirited people, can actually do things to help them. And that's not something that that's not kind of an intuitive knowledge that people can regain in the course of an election or even 3 elections. That's kind of decades of work right there, right?
Right. And you need a party that is oriented towards both doing and communicating that.
Yes. So we're going to need some doers and we're going to need some communicators. And, hopefully, we'll be hearing from people whose names we don't even know yet that will become household names. Martin Luther King wasn't Martin Luther King. He was just some, 27-year-old, minister who somehow got a job in, Montgomery, a church in Montgomery. And they're like, who are we going to have to run this bus boycott? Oh, let's have this guy Martin do it because no one else wants to do it because it's too much, and, next thing you know, you have the Civil Rights Act 8 years later.
Well, but the leadership point I just want to return to, because I know we're making this case over and over again. But part of why we're in this situation at all is because we've had a leadership vacuum at the top of the Democratic Party for almost in Biden's entire term. I would say really when Build Back Better fell apart, and also seemingly when his cognitive decline kind of accelerated. There was no one at the top of the party communicating the message. Nobody. Yes. And I think it added to this sense of like, well, they're lying about. I mean, they're lying about how old he is, and where is that dude?
Yeah.
We can't trust either side.
Build. Lots
And
of trust.
then he didn't set Harris up in any meaningful way. They just ran.
I think we're still
Yeah.
building back from the distrust, the trust that was lost among working class people because of NAFTA in 1990, whatever.
Exactly. And then the Build Back Better stuff, that and the expiration of the child tax credit, that's Joe Manchin and the Republicans. But that's
I saw a lot of hope, and I saw my kind of little margin of hope in the Harris ticket was the fact that she chose a running mate who was basically like a Scandinavian social democrat and made the COVID kind of tax rebates permanent in Minnesota, right? But people didn't buy that either,
Well, they didn't. It seemed like the campaign didn't particularly buy that after, basically starting with the convention. They decided we did enough by actually just picking him and not using him. But be that as it may, I guess here we are. All right, let's just briefly, because also I think an example of this, a version of what you're talking about too, was this Andreessen interview on Joe Rogan. And not just like, if it's just some rando on Joe Rogan who's basically spewing, 100% lies about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Lies.
Like 100% lies.
Yep.
Elizabeth Warren controls it. They actually do this. Unbanking was the only thing that he could say. And literally, this is an agency that was telling banks, like, you need to do a better job of making sure that your unbanking isn't so arbitrary and that it's like, and this is supposedly
propaganda. It's like the opposite of what's actually happening.
100%. But Elon Musk, tweets out this thing, says interesting or disturbing or whatever it is. They're using it all as an example to get rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is inhibiting their ability to use crypto and to use basically, to do money laundering and all this other stuff.
Turn the entire American financial system into a casino where the House has the advantage.
But how do we fight that when there is like a, this type of communication sort of imbalance?
Told the innocent fly on the wall in his house that OxyContin is a good thing because it keeps the rabble down. Oh, by the way, that was me, as you know.
Yeah, well, no, tell that story, because I don't think people, I know, but I don't think others do.
So you can Google my name and Mark Andreessen, and it's probably next to the long con where I talked about all the grifting that Republicans do. It's probably the most read thing I've ever written. I was flown to San Francisco, all expenses paid, to meet with his book club. Mark Andreessen, the guy who's did something useful. He helped start Netscape in the 1990s and then became a venture capitalist. And I went to his $30 million mansion, which had these priceless works of art by Agnes Martin and Klaus Oldenburg and all these people that his wife was really astonished I knew the names of, because apparently, computer bros don't, have much culture. And and in the course of the conversation, he comes from rural Wisconsin, and he talked about how much contempt he had for the people he grew up with, and that he wanted all those places to just kind of go away. And if people don't leave, they deserve what they get. And he eventually said, almost a direct quote, "I'm happy for OxyContin and video games to, keep people in line." And the funny thing is, when I pointed that out online, one of the crypto bros said, "Well, it's true. It's just a sociological fact, that people act out." And I was like, well, unless you realize that, economies can be more and less fair, and I did one of these things where I, decided I just needed to win this argument. So I, checked out the crime rate in all these countries. And of course, the ones that had the the highest levels of inequality and were the ones that had the highest crime rates and the most people acting out. It's this idea that, anyone can knock down a barn, but it takes a carpenter to build one. You need to build societies that create trust and respect. And that's hard, right? And these guys just want to rip it down. And they have absolute contempt for human beings and absolute contempt for, they order the world into lesser and greater types of human beings. And they get ordinary people without any power or resources to repeat their propaganda. And they obviously have, the tools, to kind of to choose to what was that other great George W. Bush line, Sam, to vault the propaganda or something like that.
What was it? I'm uniquely American.
That was another one. It was uniquely American to have 4 jobs.
Yeah.
Ultimately, look, this is the bottom line. I have no easy answers, right? There are no easy answers. But really, it's going to come down to kind of, the community of people who, value trust and respect and love and mutuality, just kind of every day doing everything they can in their daily lives, to realize that we're in the fight for our lives and making sacrifices for that fight.
Rick Perlstein, historian, writer at American Prospect, also soon to be. I've heard rumors about something launching at the beginning of the year. Are you at liberty to talk about it?
Kind of a soft launch at the beginning of the year, but Wikipedia, my podcast and Substack, will be launching officially on Valentine's Day as a gift to my readers, who I love so very dearly and people for. And I'm going to be doing a lot of interviews with people really about their lives and the choices they've made in their lives. And it's going to include politics, but it's going to include all kinds of other interests I have too, which is why it's going to be called Wikipedia. And I have a very well-known broadcaster whose name I shall not, because we haven't confirmed it yet, who's, for example, we're going to do an interview about our shared passion for bass fishing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good.
It rhymes with Machel Raddow.
Machel Raddow. Okay. Bass fishing. This is, I assume, with the fly rod.
No. The boring, real kind,
Oh, all right.
Yeah, that was the worst promotion I ever gave. No one wants to listen to Toastmasters.
Yeah, you don't want to say, well, let's keep the door open on the fly fishing part about it. Rick Perlstein, we will put links to all of your stuff over at majority.fm and the podcast and YouTube descriptions. Thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Next time. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break, head into the so-called fun half, wherein we will maybe have some fun.
A little bit.
Little bit.
There's a new guy running for mayor of Minneapolis we might get into. Omar Fatah, who passed the Uber and Lyft raise bill. He was sort of spearheaded that. Is running for mayor, challenging Jacob Fry. So that's what I'm excited about.
Nice.
Today. Oh, good.
Wait, so is Fry? Is this his second term? He would be entering? No.
He came in during the Floyd protest.
I think so. So I guess that would make sense. But God, it feels like he's been mayor
for a million years.
A long time. Yeah.
We got a lot of stuff to talk about in the fun half. We will get to those. Just a reminder, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajority.report.com. When you do, you not only get the free show free of commercials, but you get the fun half. And you can IM us and call us. Again, just a reminder to our IMers, do not spam us. A couple IMs per show is okay, but do not spam us. Because there is a limit on the IM thing. I don't know what the number is, but you will get cut off automatically. I got to ask Kyle what that is, because it's been so long since we've had that issue. But also, justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, and hot chocolate. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. And don't forget to sign up for the AM Quickie. Do yourself a favor. It's free. amquickie.com. You'll get your news in 5 minutes or less in that quick email every morning at 9 a.m. Check that out. Emma, ESVN.
On ESVN today, we are going to be talking about a very eventful Thanksgiving Week 13 in the NFL, which included, I don't know, the 49ers may be done. The best four teams, I think, in the NFL are emerging. So tune in to see who I think are those teams. YouTube.com/ESPN show. Also, I will talk a little bit about college football this weekend. 1 million fights. So many fights, also in the NFL. Everyone's fighting. There's something, I don't know what's going on with our astrology, but everyone's mad and fighting. YouTube.com/ESPN show.
Can't imagine what it is. Left Reckoning, actually, it was up yesterday for members, but it's released for everyone now. Prem Tucker of Zateo, great reporter who is often in the press briefing rooms asking people like Matt Miller questions that they're going to respond to with lies, talking about Hind Rajab's killing 300 days plus since the recording was released of her asking for help and being killed, and talking about asking questions to government's liars, whether it's under the Biden administration or under the coming Trump administration. So really great talking with Prem, one of my favorite reporters.
All right, folks. See you in the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks. 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half. Clearly fucked up.
Yeah.
You are in for it.
All right, folks. 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Anarchy.
Alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just wanna degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder! What a fucking nightmare!
Bring back DJ Danner.
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Danner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense. You see white people doing drugs, they look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males,
psych, fuck them.
Snowflake says what? Snowflake says what?
A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. All lives matter.
Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
And the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black African. And the alpha males are black. And the Africans are back.
When you see Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keeping it 100. Can't knock the hustle. Come on, fuck them. Things I do for the bigger game.